Huge thank you to CIBC for making We Get It possible. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of We Get It. For those who don't know me, my name is Karine. I'm the program director with Young Adult Cancer Canada. And every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, we come to you live on Facebook and YouTube to speak to someone, different guests every week, who will talk about things that are relevant to the young adult population. And this week, I'm so happy because I am with a long-time friend and YACCer who's been connected to YACC for a long time, I think 2008. So Bonnie Lang is with me today. So Bonnie, thank you for being here today. How about we first start by you introducing yourself a little bit more, and then we'll dive into what we're going to talk about today.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me today, Karine, and the YACC community. And yeah, like Karine said, my name is Bonnie, and I've been part of this community for quite some years because in 2008, my husband was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so through that started our journey of looking for resources, which started with YACC and being a supporter to him. So that's part of the role that I was able to play for him and in the community. And then I'm also a personal trainer and have been for over 10 years. And so that's kind of been in the mix, sometimes doing things with YACC, fitness related, supporter related. And then of course, just in my own journey, how movement and exercise has been an ever evolving relationship for me, and also for how that's been part of how I've coped with a lot of things in my life. And of course, helped clients along the way. So
yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. So you've guessed it. So today we're going to talk about exercise. But one of the reasons, so we have amazing people in our community. We're so lucky at YACC to have so many friends and health professionals and experts like Bonnie and others who really generously, they kind of, yeah, sure, let's talk and let's give information to the community to help them. And one of the reasons I wanted to have Bonnie on one of our episodes, yes, of course, because of her personal relationship. So the fact that you supported your husband, well, Mikey, for those who know Bonnie and Mikey, but because you have this kind of very personal experience with cancer and with supporting someone, but also because over the years, I've had the privilege really to have many conversations with you, Bonnie, about exercise. And even though to me and still today, you were always the kind of super fit, like you were I wish I was fit like Bonnie kind of person. At the same time, I love that I could always really talk with you about exercise in a way that was very mindful of the challenges that comes with incorporating exercise in our daily lives, all the body image challenges. And as we know in our community, some of our community members are very active, but many of our community members often say, when I got diagnosed with cancer, I was in the best shape of my life. So for those of you listening who might have this preconception idea that you have to do something wrong to get cancer, sorry to disappoint, but no. Cancer, especially in our young adult community, can happen with very little logical explanation. It just kind of happens. And so the relationship our community members have developed with exercise can sometimes be a bit mixed feelings, and relearning how to move, how to incorporate movement into your life, and also how to do it in a way like, for me, Bonnie, you talk about having fun, you talk about enjoying what you do, you talk about moving in a way that is much more holistic than just with this specific goal of you need to lose weight or you need to,
Yes.
it's just more how you can do this. So that's why I'm super happy you're with me. So let's kind of just dive in and talk about a little bit how, so if I say exercise and all of what I've just said, body image and all this relation, what does that say to you? What would you say about that?
Yeah. Well, I think you nailed it. I mean, it's complicated, I think is the best way to start the conversation. And it's nothing is black and white. So pre-cancer or during cancer or after diagnosis and after treatments are done, that kind of doesn't change the fact that it's very complicated. Our relationship, I think, to movement, especially as body image comes in, which I think everyone deals with to an extent,
Mm-hmm.
but cancer for most people probably magnifies, and just makes that whole relationship a little bit more messy. And the truth is, nothing is ever black and white. You know, we kind of live in the gray. And so I think if we can start to redefine or refresh how we define fitness, that it will really serve us well, because that enables us to not think that we have to go to a gym, be there for an hour and do X, Y, or Z, become a runner, or only lift heavy weights to see change. It's actually, that's black and white thinking. It's actually a lot more gray than that. And especially when you throw cancer in, and maybe you have different limitations now, or your relationship with movement has become bitter, or you have not been able to trust your body again. These are all things that we need to relearn how to do. And again, to sort of take a different perspective and approach to that. And that's not a failure thing or anything like that. This is actually how it should be, because the truth is, if it's not cancer that's going to interrupt your goals or your fitness journey, it's something else, right? It's a pandemic. That's a very easy,
Right.
I mean, nobody can go to the gym anymore, or if you can, you're maybe wearing a mask, and who wants to exercise in a mask? At least I really don't. And so finding ways to approach fitness that is more fun, that is maybe a little bit more low key. So we think of things that we can do around the house or during the day that actually add up and do bring change. Or also saying, hey, if it's not an hour, do I have 10 minutes? Do I have 15 minutes? And actually starting to believe that that can change your body and your mental health and how your heart is feeling that day, and on all these other things. So I think that's where we should start, is acknowledging that it's messy for everyone, and that maybe we can look at it from a different perspective.
Yes, and I think you nailed it. And we've had that conversation before, but I don't know where it's coming from, but I guess for a while, the fitness industry and these images of what it meant to be fit had these objectives that were sometimes very unrealistic. So if you couldn't attain that, then, I watched you do pull-ups with so much admiration, and I'm like, I can't pull this great body of mine up. I just can't. And I made peace with that. But there's these objectives that sometimes makes you, like you said, makes you feel like a failure, or like what you can do is never going to be enough. So I know that some of our members, some YACCers would say, well, really, what difference is it going to make really if I go for 10 minutes walk? And especially I can't walk fast. And if I don't sweat, and if like all of these ideas that stop us really from trying to make a small change.
That's right. I think that idea of more than nothing is one that I would really love people to take home, and not just hear, but actually believe that something is more than nothing. And that's been something that I think that will serve you really, really well. And that's been really great for me as my life has changed over the last few years. My job has changed. I'm no longer working out of the gym. Everything is now in the basement, or often in the kitchen, with dumbbells or just body weight. And sometimes there's kids around. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think if we wait for that perfect experience where you're uninterrupted, you have your favorite workout clothes on, sometimes you can do things in your pajamas, and that's fine. And so more than nothing, this idea will help you from getting stopped. And that's I think where sometimes we get bombarded with these ideas, and okay, I want to change, or I just want to feel better. And these are all good things, but then we get stopped, like you said. And so maybe try this more than nothing approach. So what's something a little bit more than I can do than I was doing before?
Yeah.
And 10 minutes.
Oh,
maybe your energy's not great. So it's a lap around the block, that's more than nothing. And those are things to be celebrated, and not to say, well, it's not what I could do before. And that's really hard. So that is going to take work to sort of let that old self go and sort of look at right where you are today. So it's not simple. Nothing about this is simple, really. But it's really important, because we know all the benefits of movement, and I probably don't need to reiterate them, but I think the ones that I would love to sort of harp on are, if you want stronger bones, you got to move your body, right? You have to lift some kind of weight, and that can be a kid, laundry detergent, dumbbells, barbells, that can look really different. But we need strong bones, especially if you've probably had treatment. You know, it's really important for our mental health. And I think in this pandemic, that's really what we've seen. If there's one way that you can cope, that you can be in charge of, it's choosing to move your body some way. And that's free. And it's something that we can all do in some way. And I know that's going to look really different for everyone in our community, especially, but there are things that we can do. And we know movement helps. It produces endorphins. And so these are all things, especially if you watch Legally Blonde, she talks about that at Reese Witherspoon. I mean, we know of this stuff, but to really believe it and say, okay, if I'm feeling like I'm working at my computer or I'm on Zoom all day or I'm not doing any of that and I'm just kind of at home alone, isolated, well, try to get up and move your body and you will undoubtedly feel better. So if you want something to change, we have to get the ball moving and change something. So these are just some of the benefits, right, of movement. And I'm looking at my notes here. Yeah, huge way to deal with stress though. And then the confidence, right? And man, if I'm ever having a bad day, I just move a little bit. Or if I'm even having a bad body image day, a little bit of movement, and it doesn't need to look like pull-ups. It doesn't need to look like anything fancy, but it just kind of changes my perspective and helps me feel better. Like, oh, I can do something. I am capable. So these are some of the benefits and some of the reasons why we would move. And then I think looking at, okay, so what can I do? So getting a bit more practical, we can get into that a little bit later, but there's lots that we can do without even any equipment that you can find right in your own house or just with your own body, and always ways to modify. So I would say bring that more than nothing approach into how you look at fitness. And then the second thing, which would be my second takeaway for the community, is consistency is key. And that's probably the hardest part. Is people get excited, they want to move, they start, and there's all these other reasons and benefits to do so. But then I get interrupted. The workout wasn't finished, so why even bother? Or life happens and I got sick again. Okay, so why start again? And the biggest thing that we can do to serve ourselves is to keep trying, to keep going. And that's where if you can say, take more than nothing into consistency, well, it doesn't really matter if it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes. But hey, if I'm consistent more days than not in a week, you will see change and you will feel better. And that's really the main thing, right? You start to feel better and then you start to move better and then you start to get stronger and to feel better in your clothes and all these other kind of goals we can have besides weight loss. And that's certainly another byproduct that can come too. But even focusing on how you feel, that's going to just affect everything. So more than nothing and consistency. Those are our best goals we can have, I think.
They're good. And I think like for anyone watching, they're accessible. So we talk about practicing. So when we talk about meditation, when we talk about self-compassion, when we talk about so many things, trying to change our thoughts, and when we're working towards anxiety, there is something to be said about practicing regularly to change things. So it would be so great if doing something once, it became a habit that same day. It would be amazing. But it doesn't work that way. So I think you're absolutely right. And there is truth in when, so I'm sure all of you, all the chemicals that happen when we exercise and all of that, there is something addictive in that sense where the body starts to crave it or miss it when we don't do it. And that comes over consistency. And again, it doesn't mean that everybody needs to do a super intense exercise to achieve that. But it is, and you're right, I think life can get in the way. And sometimes it's been a week. I haven't done anything in a week. And then we feel bad about ourselves where really it's like, well, let's do something today. Let's start again.
That's right. That's right. And you can always modify. So let's say you are following a plan and you maybe go back into treatment, or you're just having a down week. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why we might get off a plan. And here's the thing, you can always modify. So if something says a push-up, well, you can always turn that into, I'm on my counters right here. You can always turn that into a push-up right on your counter. It doesn't have to be on the ground, right? Or even if you're just tired that day, maybe you don't want to stress your body with an intense workout. So let the plan go and choose to do more than nothing, and choose to instead, I'm just going to go for a walk and see how that feels, or just start my workout. 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to want to finish it. So that's the benefit. But just remember that you can always modify what you're doing too. So one day you might have more energy than the next, and that can be, you know, cancer related or not. I think there's a lot of emotional fatigue happening right now, and it's a lot easier. I spent the last couple nights up late on Netflix, and I shouldn't be doing that. And it's a lot easier to do that instead of to say, well, I'm going to give myself 15 minutes to move. 15 minutes of scrolling goes by really quick on your phone, but 15 minutes of a workout of any sort will serve you far better in the long run. So if we can kind of take that thinking into everything and know that it doesn't have to look a certain way, no, you'll just come out so far ahead, and you will for sure feel better. And so these are things that we want, this, like you had mentioned in the beginning, this sort of holistic perspective about fitness. And it's not necessarily about, it can be, but not necessarily about being able to do a pull-up or to fit in a certain size jeans. These are all okay goals. There's nothing wrong with any of those goals. But if we start from a place of more self-compassion and wanting to see that change from the inside out, you will stick with it for longer. And I don't know about you, but I want to be moving when I'm 80 and 90 years old. Yeah. That's more my goal than what my jeans look like right now, you know? Yeah. And so if we can have a reason and a really good why, and so I would challenge you to maybe think about your why and let that be part of your driver as well, rather than just, I want to be able to do what I used to do. And maybe along the way, you're going to get there, which is cool too. So.
Yeah. And no, absolutely. And I think, as you were talking, it made me think of something, and then it just went away twice while you were talking. Oh. But anyway, I totally agree with you. And ultimately, I guess I wanted to come back in these elements that you're mentioning, the fun part. So personally for me, once I allowed myself to try movement until I found something I actually truly enjoyed, yes, and didn't do it out of guilt or a sense of obligation of, well, I'm supposed to move because, I don't know, I'm fat or I feel fat today or whatever goes into my mind. Once I allowed myself to do that, I tried a few things. You know, it was not a first shot type of thing, but eventually the pleasure helps with my consistency. Yes. And it helps with my a little bit more, because over time, because I'm finding it pleasurable and fun, I want to do a little bit more of that. Nothing extreme. I'm not an athlete. I'm never going to be an athlete. I'm okay with that. But, you know, I feel like these kind of components can really help us, especially right now. Geez, like this, our episode is going to be in January, which, you know, is not that far. And I think the winter months, the darker kind of, the sun goes down earlier in the day. Figuring out how to incorporate exercise with those elements you're talking about, to me, is so important. It can make such a big difference.
Yeah. Those are really good points that you bring up. I mean, looking at our motivation to move, I bet you most of us have been there before, where we're exercising from a place of guilt and of almost punishment. I don't think that's uncommon. And especially this time of year, it's kind of sad that we maybe don't have the holiday parties and things to look forward to, because that might be a different conversation where we're saying, okay, how do you approach those in a mindful way? We might not be having those, but you still have maybe some, you know, extra types of food in your house that you might not have, and it's getting darker. And again, it's easy just to curl up and eat and watch Netflix. Yep. And again, there's nothing wrong with eating those foods or watching Netflix. But like you said, if you can enjoy what you're doing and move, not from a sense of, oh, I ate that cake and now I need to move. The two should not be related, right? You don't have to earn your food, and you don't have to punish through fitness. No. So instead, if we can learn a way to move from a place of happiness and of something that you're doing for yourself instead, and find something that's fun, like you said, maybe that's a dance party honestly.
Mm-hmm.
You will get your heart rate up and have some fun while you're dancing around your kitchen. So here it's maybe different where we're not always able to go look for a class right now. If you can in your community, that's great. But if not, if there's ways that you can just move in your own house, and I will, give you guys examples of that, find a way to make it fun, like Karine said, because you're right, that is part of where the consistency comes in. And that being said, there's probably days you still won't feel like showing up and doing it.
Yes.
And that's part of the habit. And I love that idea of practice.
Mm-hmm.
Lifting is practicing. So you're never going to lift perfectly all the time. It's practice. And every time you move, oh, I didn't hit that weight today, or man, I showed up late to class, or I could only get 10 minutes. That's okay. It's all reinforcing that practice. So even if you find something that you love, that motivation might not always be there, but remember that action should really come first. So motivation is this elusive thing we look for, and especially in winter, that can be really hard. Like you said, the daylight makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, if you can view it as act first and the motivation will come, that's much better than waiting for motivation. It doesn't just appear.
Now, fake it till you make it is a real thing.
Absolutely.
Like there are times, and to your point, I think it's all this fine line. We all navigate this place, and I know our community members definitely does, especially if they're in the midst of treatment, but to learn or relearn to know your body's needs. So there are some days where I wake up and I'm planning to go to spin class because that's the thing I love. And sometimes I felt I was too tired. I was not feeling good. And I knew that on that day, the decision was for me not to push, to
That's
rest.
right.
And so to learn to do this, and not like, for me personally, it was kind of like, well, sometimes maybe it was a bit lazy. I kind of like, I don't feel like it.
Right.
But other times it's to kind of realize, okay, no, it's not that I don't feel like it. It's really that my body is asking me to just maybe rest, do something more gentle, to your point. Like walk around the house, do my 250 steps in the house today, and that's going to be my thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, in this journey of fitness and movement, rest is just as important as movement. And learning, I think most of us know the difference if we're just lazy or if like, I just need to decompress today. And that's where also, if you're doing something at home and you're not sure if you're writing that line or not, start something. And if you don't feel good 5-10 minutes in, just say, okay, that's it. And don't put that pressure on yourself. So if we can kind of give ourselves grace along this journey too, again, we're looking in the long haul, that's where consistency will serve you and will carry you to keep moving. And that's really the goal. But you're right. I mean, it has to be fun, has to be enjoyable. You're still going to not always want to do it, but also finding that line of rest and just like you said, relearning your own body. That's going to look different pre-cancer than it might be where you are right now. And especially with the stressors of life happening, maybe you're not sleeping well or you have family stuff going on. I mean, all these things are layered in, and that's why we go back to this is messy. It's not as simple as following a plan or always going to your class at the gym. It's messy, and that's okay because life is messy. So if we can let it be messy, we'll be a lot better than trying to keep it all in the box that we want it to be in.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you. That's great. And so I know that you had maybe a few exercises that some people could do at home, and we will be able to incorporate possibly some video, will we?
Yes, please check out the videos. I'm going to get those to Karine, and just simple things that you can do. And these will be more workout style. So if you look at it and you say, I'm not really like a follow a workout person, well, then you can do your dance party. And I'll include those ideas. Or you can go for a walk, right? You can snowshoe if you're in a snowy place. There's a lot more we can still do. But I would love to provide you with some strength training. So some movements that are going to get you strong, but also get your heart rate up a bit. And you can take them fast, you can take them slow. And so you can check those videos out to help you get moving in your kitchen with me.
Hey you guys, well happy new year, and I wanted to share with you a couple different exercises you can do just to add into your life, and as well as a couple different workouts that you can do just to help get the blood moving, to help you feel better, to help increase your cardio and increase your bone density through strength training, and just help you feel stronger and better all over. So remember, the main draw here, or our main focus, is consistency is key and more than nothing, right? This doesn't have to be a huge overhaul, and your workouts don't have to be an hour. So with that said, here's a couple that you can do. So here's a few body weight workouts that you can do in the comfort of your own home. So the first one, I'm gonna look at my notes here, is 15-minute AMRAP, which means as many rounds as possible. So for 15 minutes, you're gonna work as long as you can and as hard as you can. And some days that might mean not a whole lot of effort depending on how you're feeling, and some days you can really give it. So 15 minutes, put the clock on, and you're gonna start with 10 leg lifts, so laying on the ground. And you want to tilt your pelvis, bring your legs up, and then pull that low back down to the ground. You can have your arms out, and you're gonna go down until you feel that back pop up, right? You don't wanna feel this in your back, you wanna feel this in your core. You can also do single legs, or you can keep the knees bent here and just tap your heels. So you're gonna do 10 of those, so either 10 singles total or 10 together, exhaling on the way up, and then 10 push-ups. So these you can do against a bench, you can do against the wall, against the counter in your house. You can find a couch or something higher. So the main thing with push-ups is you don't want your elbows to flare out. You want them to go back 45 degrees from your body, right? Leading with your chest. So if you're on the ground, that would look like about hip width apart, shoulder width apart, going down, and exhale as you come back up. So you're gonna give me 10 in any variety. And I prefer that you did those elevated so you get the core work rather than on your knees. So find a height that suits you where you can get 10 of them out, and you'll get more total body work than if you use your knees. Last move is 10 alternating step-ups or lunges. So you can see, I can make space right here. 1, 2, you can use something very small. You can use a step, or you can turn those into alternating lunges. So again, that's 15 minutes total, 10 leg lifts, you choose your challenge, 10 push-ups, and 10 alternating step-ups or lunges. Okay, so another workout, you can set the clock for 12 minutes, or you can complete 3 rounds of the following workout. 10 squats, right? And when you squat, we do this every day to go to the bathroom, to sit down to eat. You're gonna think of chest up, pushing your hips back, and driving up and squeezing your bum, squeeze those glutes. So the idea here is that we're sitting more on our heels and not falling forward on our toes, and that your knees, if anything, are going out rather than caving in. So that's one thing to look for. 10 squats, then you're gonna give me 5 burpees. So this one's a little bit more intensity. So a burpee would be hands down, step or jump back, hit the ground, drive up, and jump. So you can also do those by stepping into the movement. You can do it off of something that's elevated, step, step in, and stand or jump. And you can also step, come here, and squat. So actually lots of variety for how you can choose that burpee. So 5 of those will get your heart rate up. And the last exercise is either 10 V-ups or 10 dead bugs. And this would be for the core again. So the full V-up would be extension, exhale up. I'm not so good at keeping my legs straight. And then you can also do single legs. I got a little more straight legs here. Exhale as you come up. Or the dead bug, which you're going to be, again, in that strong core position, arms up, and then exhale as you come together. Exhale, and you should feel this all through your core. Again, you're not lifting up in that low back, so you only go as far as you can manage. You can even just do the arms or just do the legs and tap. So again, that's 3 rounds or 12 minutes total of 10 squats, 5 burpees, and 10 V-ups or dead bugs. Okay, so if you have some weights around your house, here is a few workouts you can do that involve some weights for a different type of challenge. So the first would be, you can pick a number of rounds, say 3 or 4, or do even just a short 10-minute AMRAP. And you're gonna start with 10 deadlifts. So with the deadlifts, you're gonna hinge. So you're gonna push your hips back and drive up and squeeze your bum. So different than a squat, I'm hinging, I'm keeping everything around my middle strong. You can also do this with 2 weights here. So again, shoulders back, push my hips back, and stand and squeeze. And you should feel this movement in your hamstrings right here. So that's the first one. Hips back, stand and squeeze. So you're gonna do 10 deadlifts, 5 overhead presses. So if you have a bit of a lighter weight, you can think of going strong core, hit overhead. These are a little heavy for me for 5, but you can go there for 5. And then the last move would be 5 goblet squats. So you can take a kettlebell or a dumbbell here and sit down. So the main thing is you don't want that weight to hunch you over. Instead, sit and stand and squeeze. So again, you've got your 10 deadlifts, pushing back, squeeze, standing up. Nothing's round in your body. Then you go to 5 overhead presses and finish with 5 goblet squats. So 10, 5, 5. Okay, so this last workout I have for you has a little mix of body weight and weighted work in it. So for this one, you're gonna start with 15 to 20 glute bridges or hip raises. So you're gonna be on your back and you're gonna tuck that pelvis under, drive your hips up and squeeze your bum and down. And breathe out, little pause and down. So at the top, we wanna get shoulders, hips, and knees lined up together and back down. You can also make these a bit harder by elevating your feet. So I can go here or on something smaller and head relaxed, squeeze and down. Exhale and down. So these you should feel back side of your body and in your core a little bit as well. So 15 to 20 hip bridges, glute bridges. Then you're gonna go to some rows. So you're gonna go for 10 bent over rows with your weight. So nice, strong, neutral spine. Up and squeeze, and down. So 10 of these. Now, if you have a band, you can loop that around something and do 10 band rows. Okay? You can also take a towel or a t-shirt, roll it up, and pull your shoulder blades back. Keep tension in the towel, so pull it apart and row it to yourself and squeeze your back. I promise if you pull this towel apart, you will feel it in your back big time. It's very tiring. So remember, you could use something like this for any kind of row. You can also take it overhead, where my hands will go a little wider and squeeze it apart and down, almost like I'm doing a pull-up, but just here in my living room. Squeeze. Okay, so you've got, hello Abby, 10 to 15 glute bridges, 10 rows, you choose your challenge, and then 5 inchworms. And you can choose to push up or tap. So the inchworm, soft knees, you're gonna walk out in a plank. You can either tap your shoulders, you can perform a push-up, or you can just stay there and then come back up and stand. So from the side, get past my dumbbells here, it looks like go on out here, all the way up and stand and squeeze. So again, that's a 15-minute workout, and you're going to go for 15 to 20 glute bridges, 10 rows any way, and 5 inchworms, tap or push-up included. So hopefully that gives you guys some variety, some things you can do in your house. There are a ton of things we can do, and we didn't even cover, but that is for maybe another conversation, another day. And of course, these workouts are also not cancer specific. So if you've had surgery for anything recently, you may or may not want to do push-ups. You may or may not want to be using your core in the same way. And depending on where your abilities are right now, hopefully you can find ways to scale this down or scale this up, because something is always better than nothing. So remember that, more than nothing, consistency is key. Maybe you do some squats, a couple push-ups, you go for a walk. If we can get outside, get some vitamin D, and just remember to treat your body well and to love yourselves and to be kind to yourself as you journey along this, wherever you are in your own journey with cancer. Thanks, you guys.
All right, this is great. These were great. Bonnie, you had, like, years ago, you had built something for me, and I still remember some of the movements and some of the things you had given me. And I think that what we've seen here and the information you provided us with today, it's helpful. It's a start. Try and be kind and gentle with yourself and give it a try. And to your point, adjust as you need to and see how it feels. That's kind of the basic, right?
That's right. Yeah. More than nothing, stay consistent and make sure that you have fun along the way. And like Karine said, be kind to yourself. I think that's one of the best things we can do. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. This was so great to spend some time with you today and to get to hear a little bit Jack in the background.
Yeah.
And
yes.
he's been so good. He's been great the entire time.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love you so much. I miss you. But this is great information. And I know many of our people in our community are going to be able to relate. So, hey, try and be nice with yourself. Give this a try. And as I say every Monday, just breathe through it. And if you try and you start and you're sitting and you're thinking about moving and you're not, just breathe. Take a few breaths as often as you need to. Remind yourself of why you're doing what you're doing, and then do it again. And if you have a bad day or a day where you feel off, the next day, don't drag that day back to the next day. Leave that day where it is. Start fresh the next day. Just breathe. Helps all the time. So thank you again so much, Bonnie. Thank you, everyone who was able to join today. Hope you've enjoyed, and well, join us next Monday, 7 p.m. Have a great rest of the whatever. Bye.
Okay, bye.